The betrayal. The Galactic Council had made its decision. Humanity was dangerous. Humanity was unpredictable. And worst of all, humanity was growing too fast. In just a few centuries, they had expanded from their small blue planet to colonizing dozens of worlds. They had built powerful fleets, advanced technology, and worst of all, they did not obey. Unlike other species, humans refused to submit to the Council's authority. The Council saw only one solution: destroy Earth, wipe out humanity, end the threat before it was too late. The attack came without warning. Earth's skies burned. Gigantic Council warships, bristling with weapons, arrived in Earth's orbit. Without hesitation, they opened fire. Cities vanished in explosions. Millions died in minutes. The planet's defenses fought back, but it was useless. Humanity was caught completely off guard. Council ground troops landed in the ruins, hunting survivors. Entire colonies were erased from existence. The Council believed that by crushing Earth, they would break humanity's spirit. But they did not understand humans. The survivors did not beg. They did not surrender. They vanished. Deep into space, underground bunkers, hidden bases, those who escaped did not waste time mourning. They did not sit in fear. They planned. They waited. And they learned. Months passed. Then a year. The Council had won, or so they thought. The news spread across the galaxy. Humanity is dead. Earth is gone. The Council celebrated. They had removed a problem before it became a real threat. The few human survivors hiding in the shadows were no concern. They had no home, no fleets, no power. But then, something strange started happening. A cargo ship vanished near the outer colonies. No distress call, no wreckage. Gone. A patrol fleet went silent. No one returned. A powerful general, one of the leaders of the attack on Earth, was assassinated. His entire security team was found dead in their own base. At first, the Council dismissed these events as accidents, pirates, technical failures, or minor rebellions. Then, the messages started. Short, simple, chilling, broadcasted across Council channels. You should have finished the job. The Council felt the first cold grip of fear. The disappearances increased. Entire military outposts were found empty, the soldiers missing. Ships were discovered drifting in space, their crews slaughtered. Every attempt to track the attackers failed. The Council called them ghosts, shadows, a dying race trying to fight back. But it wasn't a fight. It was something else. It was a hunt. And the Council was beginning to realize something terrifying. Humanity was not dead. They were still out there. And now, they were coming. Admiral Xorvan stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at the empty void. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had crushed rebellions, conquered planets, and destroyed countless civilizations that refused to obey. So why was he feeling fear now? It started with whispers, rumors, reports of missing ships, silent outposts, and assassinated officers. At first, the Council dismissed it as pirate activity or internal conflicts among the lesser species. Then, an entire fleet went dark. 5 warships vanished. No distress signal, no wreckage, nothing. Now, Xorvan had been sent to investigate. His fleet of 10 powerful Council warships approached the last known location of the missing fleet, a mining colony on the barren world of Volta 7. The moment they arrived, something felt wrong. The colony was silent. No lights, no communication. The massive drilling machines lay abandoned. The streets were empty. The air was thick with tension. Xorvan ordered a ground team to investigate. His best soldiers landed and moved through the colony. The buildings were intact. There were no signs of a battle, but there were no bodies. It was as if the entire population had simply disappeared. Then they found the first message. Carved into the metal walls of the Central Command Building, written in a language that sent a chill through Xorvan's body. You started this. One of the soldiers turned on his communicator. "Admiral, I think we should." A gunshot rang out. Then another. Screams filled the channel. Zorvin's blood turned cold. "Report. What's happening?" No response. The monitors on the bridge flickered. Security cameras showed dark shapes moving in the colony. Fast, precise, taking down soldiers one by one. Zorvin's second-in-command, Captain Relf, stared at the screen. "This is impossible. There's no army here, just a few survivors." The last transmission came from the ground team's commander. His voice was panicked. "They're not fighting like soldiers. They're—" A scream. Silence. The transmission cut off. The Admiral's fleet was still in orbit. No enemy ships had been detected. No signals, no warnings. Yet, one by one, the Council warships began losing power. Engines failed. Shields dropped. Weapons refused to fire. "What is happening?" Zorvin shouted. A new message appeared on every screen. "You thought we were gone." Then the attack came. Small, fast ships, barely detectable, burst from the shadows. They weaved between the disabled warships, striking with precision. Explosions tore through the fleet. Panic filled the bridge. "Sir, we're being overwhelmed." Zorvin realized the horrifying truth. This was not a desperate act of survival. This was a trap. The Council had tried to erase humanity, but humanity had adapted. And now, the hunters had become the hunted. The battle lasted less than an hour. Admiral Zorvin's flagship was the last to be taken down. He stood on the bridge, watching the fires consume his fleet. His hands trembled as he saw the final message appear on his shattered display screen. "You should have finished the job." Before he could say another word, his ship exploded. Back in the depths of space, far from any Council-controlled world, a human operative watched the battle reports come in. The mission was a success. The hunt had begun. And this was only the beginning. Supreme Chancellor Vorik paced inside the Council's grand chamber, his claws clicking against the polished floor. The room, once a place of order and control, was now filled with nervous whispers and uncertain glances. Another fleet had gone missing. Another world had fallen silent. This was not how it was supposed to be. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. Enough. Vorik slammed his fist onto the table. The room fell silent. "These are just remnants. Stragglers. We crushed their homeworld, destroyed their fleets. They have no army, no resources, no allies." An older council member, his reptilian face pale with fear, shook his head. "Then explain how they are winning." A hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It displayed a series of planets and outposts, each one marked as destroyed, missing, or compromised. The losses were staggering. Entire fleets had disappeared. Council generals were being assassinated. Worlds were falling without a single battle. "This is impossible," Vorik muttered. "How can a dead race fight back?" A deep voice answered from the shadows. "They're not fighting a war, Chancellor." The room turned toward the figure who had spoken. It was High Commander Torvin, one of the Council's most ruthless military leaders. His armor was scratched and battle-worn, and his eyes burned with something the others refused to acknowledge. Fear. "They're not fighting like a civilization," Torvin continued. "They're fighting like predators." Meanwhile, on a distant Council world, Governor Rillis sat in his office reviewing security reports. He didn't believe in the rumors. Humans were weak, primitive. The idea that they could pose a threat to the mighty Galactic Council was laughable. A noise made him pause. A whisper of movement. He turned, but the room was empty. Shaking his head, he returned to his work, then noticed something strange on his screen. His security detail, stationed outside his door, was no longer moving. Their life signs were gone. His blood turned to ice. Slowly, he reached for the emergency alarm. A blade pressed against his throat. A voice, cold and human, whispered in his ear, "Your council thought it could erase us. Rylus tried to scream, but the blade sliced deep, and his world faded to darkness. Back in the Grand Chamber, the Council watched in horror as a message was broadcast across the galaxy. A grainy video played. It showed Governor Rylus's lifeless body, slumped in his chair. The camera zoomed in, revealing a message carved into the wall behind him. "You started this." Panic erupted in the chamber. "We must call for peace," one counselor cried. "No," Vorik shouted. "We cannot show weakness. We will strike back. We will find these monsters, and end them for good." But deep down, he knew the truth. They were no longer hunting humans. They were running from them. And no matter where they fled, humanity would find them. The Galactic Council was crumbling. The attacks were no longer isolated. Humanity wasn't just targeting military outposts anymore. They were hitting trade routes, communication hubs, and political leaders. Entire star systems were surrendering without a fight. Fear spread like wildfire. In a secret war chamber, Supreme Chancellor Vorik stood before the remaining council leaders. Once, they had ruled the galaxy without challenge. Now, they were hunted like animals. "This cannot continue," Vorik growled, his voice barely hiding his panic. "We must stop them before they destroy everything we have built." High Commander Torvin, the Council's greatest military strategist, looked at him grimly. "How? Every fleet we send vanishes. Every trap we set fails. They do not fight like an army. They are shadows, ghosts. They do not hold territory. They do not seek power. They want only one thing." Torvin turned, his reptilian eyes burning with dread. Vengeance. Across the galaxy, Admiral Selphis prepared the Council's last hope. Operation Extinction. A trap. A massive fleet of warships designed to lure the humans into battle. Every ship carried elite hunters, advanced tracking systems, and countermeasures against electronic warfare. This time, they would not be caught off guard. The bait was simple, an unprotected supply convoy moving toward the edge of Council space. If the humans attacked, they would be surrounded and wiped out. The Council had deployed its entire military force for this battle. It was their final chance to end the nightmare. Selphis watched from the bridge of his flagship, waiting. Hours passed. Then a day. Nothing. Had the humans learned of the trap? Had they finally backed down? Then, a single message appeared on every ship's communication system. "We see you." Before the fleet could react, ships within their own ranks began exploding. Not from outside attacks, but from inside. Sabotage. Council officers turned against each other, alarms blaring as ships lost control. Whole sections of the fleet were disabled before they could even fire a shot. Then, the real attack began. Human ships emerged from the void, sleek and deadly. They moved too fast for Council weapons to lock onto. They struck with terrifying precision, cutting through the fleet like a blade through flesh. On the Council flagship, Admiral Selphis watched in horror as his unstoppable fleet fell apart in mere minutes. This isn't possible," he whispered. A transmission came through. A human face appeared on the screen, scared, determined, merciless. "We were never hiding," the human said coldly. "We were waiting." Selphis reached for his weapon, but it was too late. A massive explosion consumed his flagship, and the Council's last great fleet died with him. Back in the war chamber, Supreme Chancellor Vorik and High Commander Torvin watched the battle unfold through trembling holographic projections. The greatest military force in the galaxy was gone. The humans had won. The Council had only one option left. They had to run. Supreme Chancellor Vorik's hands trembled as he stared at the holoscreen. The last Council fleet had been obliterated, not defeated in battle, annihilated. Admiral Selphis was gone. The Council's war machine was no more. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, they were powerless. Vorik turned to High Commander Torvin, the only military leader left. "We have no fleets, no defenses. The humans will come for us next." Torvin, his scales pale with fear, nodded. Then we must leave. Abandon the core worlds. We cannot fight them. We must scatter, hide, and hope they do not find us. The other council members erupted in protest. Leave? We are the rulers of the galaxy. We cannot simply. The holoscreen flickered. A new transmission had overridden their systems. A human face appeared. A woman, her expression calm, her eyes empty of mercy. You ran from war, she said. Now you will run for your lives. Then the message ended. The council chamber fell into a dead silence. They had no choice. They had to flee. The evacuation of the council homeworld, Volter Prime, began immediately. Every available ship was loaded with supplies, records, and the remaining council leaders. Civilian leaders were abandoned. The planetary defenses were left behind. There was no point in fighting. Survival was the only goal. The plan was simple. Break apart. Flee to different corners of the galaxy. Hide in the shadows and hope that humanity's rage would burn out before they were found. But as the last escape ships lifted off, the humans arrived. They did not attack from space. They did not send a fleet. Instead, the people of Volter Prime simply vanished. Entire cities went dark, streets filled with abandoned vehicles. Communication stations were silent. No bodies, no screams. Just emptiness. As the last escape ship entered orbit, Supreme Chancellor Vorik looked down at his once great world. It was dead. And he knew, deep in his cold-blooded heart, humanity was not just hunting them. They were erasing them. Supreme Chancellor Vorik's escape ship hurtled through the void at maximum speed. His claws dug into the armrests of his chair as he watched the holographic map flicker before him. The last of the Council's leadership had scattered to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Some had fled to isolated moons, others to hidden space stations. All of them hoped, prayed, that humanity would stop hunting them. But deep down, Vorik knew the truth. There was nowhere left to hide. High Commander Torvin sat across from him, his reptilian face grim. "We must find allies," he said. "Surely there are others who fear the humans. If we unite." "There is no one," Vorik interrupted. His voice was sharp, filled with panic. "No one will stand with us. The lesser species celebrate our downfall. They remember the centuries of our rule, the planets we conquered, the civilizations we crushed. They welcome humanity's revenge." Torvin's jaw clenched. He knew it was true. The Galactic Council had ruled with an iron fist for millennia, treating lesser species as nothing more than tools, servants, or resources. And now, when the Council needed them most, they would find no mercy. A sharp alarm blared across the ship. Vorik turned to the control panel. His cold blood ran even colder. A single message flashed across the screen. "We found you." On a distant, frozen world, a council governor named Eltis huddled inside his underground bunker. His breath was ragged, his nerves shattered. He had escaped to this forsaken planet weeks ago, thinking himself safe. He had been wrong. The power had gone out 3 days ago. His security forces had vanished. The last transmission from his guards had been a scream, cut off before he could hear the end. Now he was alone. A soft sound echoed through the bunker. A whisper. Eltis grabbed his weapon, his 3-fingered hands shaking. "Who's there?" No response. Then, from the darkness, a voice spoke. A human voice. "You ran fast." Eltis's breath caught in his throat. He turned, firing wildly into the shadows. His plasma shots lit up the room for mere seconds, just long enough to see them. Figures moved in the dark, surrounding him. Then, silence. His screams never left the bunker. Back on Vorik's ship, the Chancellor trembled as the lights flickered. The engines died. "Torvin," he whispered, his voice barely holding together. "They're already here." Torvin drew his blade, but they both knew it was useless. A shadow moved behind them. The last thing Supreme Chancellor Vorik saw was a pair of human eyes, cold, ruthless, and filled with justice. The Galactic Council was over. And soon, its memory would be nothing more than dust. The Galactic Council was gone. Their fleets had been destroyed. Their worlds had fallen silent. The once mighty rulers of the galaxy had fled to the deepest corners of space, believing they could outrun the wrath of humanity. But they had been wrong, because humanity had not forgotten, and they never forgave. Deep within an asteroid field at the edge of the galaxy, the last surviving members of the Council huddled inside a secret bunker. It had been built for this exact purpose, a final refuge, a place so hidden that no enemy could ever find them. Yet they all knew the truth. It was only a matter of time. The counselors sat around a cold metal table, their faces filled with exhaustion and fear. There were only 5 of them left. Vorik was gone. Torvin was gone. Every leader, every commander, every ruler had fallen. A trembling voice broke the silence. "We should surrender." The others turned to Counselor Dren, a frail insectoid who had once overseen the enslavement of entire species. Now his wings twitched with terror. "They will never accept surrender," another counselor hissed. "We killed billions of their kind. We burned their homeworld. We wiped out their colonies. Why would they show us mercy?" Dren's mandibles clicked. "Then what do we do?" The room fell into a heavy silence. There was no answer, because there was nothing left to do. The end had already come. A distant alarm rang through the bunker. Something had breached the outer defenses. The counselors froze, their eyes darting toward the security screens. Static flickered across the monitors. One by one, the cameras were going dark. Something was inside. Something unstoppable. Panic erupted in the room. "They found us," someone screamed. "We have to run." But there was nowhere left to run. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped. A cold wind swept through the bunker's halls, though there were no open doors. And then, a voice. Calm, cold, human. "This is where it ends." The last of the Council turned to face the darkness. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had enslaved entire civilizations. They had believed themselves untouchable. Now, they were nothing. No one would remember their names. No one would mourn their loss. The hunt was over, and humanity stood victorious. The Galactic Council's greatest mistake, betraying humanity. And they paid the price.